Today, we're going to talk about something that's literally all around us, but we almost never think about it: water pollution. It's this kind of invisible crisis, but believe me, its effects are anything but. So, yeah, let's dive right in. So, let me ask you something. That water you used this morning, to make your coffee or take a shower, how clean do you really think it is? It's one of those questions that sounds simple, but the answer, well, it's a lot more complicated, and it matters to every single one of us. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we've got to start with the basics. Part 1 is all about defining the problem. What are we actually talking about when we say water pollution? So, on the surface, the definition is pretty straightforward, right? It's when harmful stuff gets into our water, our lakes, rivers, oceans, you name it. But the real punch is in those words harmful and toxic. We're not just talking about water that looks a little murky. We're talking about water that becomes dangerous, even deadly for everything that relies on it. And that includes us. And this harmful stuff comes in a few different flavors. You've got your biological contaminants, the nasty little invaders like bacteria and viruses. Then there's the chemical side of things: pesticides, industrial waste, all that junk. And finally, you have physical pollution. This is the stuff you can sometimes see, like plastic, but it's also things you can't see, like thermal pollution. That's excess heat that can totally throw an ecosystem out of whack. All right, so we know what the problem is. The next logical question is, where is all this stuff coming from? That brings us to part 2, tracing the sources. Basically, pollutants get into our water in two main ways. First up, you've got point source pollution. The easiest way to think about this is like a single leaky pipe from a factory. You can literally point to where the pollution is coming from. It's identifiable. But then you have non-point source pollution. This one is way sneakier. It's less like a single pipe and more like a whole field or a whole city street that's just seeping pollution after a rainstorm. Agricultural runoff is a perfect example. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once, which makes it incredibly difficult to pin down and control. And this chart, wow, it really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Just look at that massive chunk for agriculture, 45%. That's mostly fertilizers and pesticides washing off of fields and straight into our rivers. Industry and urban runoff are huge contributors too. It just goes to show this isn't a problem caused by one bad actor. It's a huge systemic issue. Okay, so we've defined the problem, we've traced the sources, now it's time to talk about the consequences. What actually happens when our water gets polluted? Part 3 is all about the ripple effects. And here is a perfect and, frankly, terrifying example of those ripple effects. It's called eutrophication. It all starts with that agricultural runoff we just talked about. A huge overload of nutrients hits the water. What happens next? The algae in the water go crazy, creating these massive algal blooms that block out all the sunlight. But here's the kicker. When all that algae dies and sinks, the bacteria that decompose it suck up almost all the oxygen in the water. The result? A dead zone, where fish and other marine life literally can't breathe. They suffocate. This isn't theoretical. It happens every year in places like the Gulf of Mexico, creating dead zones the size of entire states. It's a devastating chain reaction. But the impact isn't just on the environment. It's deeply, deeply human. Just look at this number for a second. 2.2 billion. That's how many people on our planet don't have access to safely managed drinking water. That's more than 1 out of every 4 people. For them, a clean glass of water isn't something you just get from the tap. It's a daily struggle, and it's directly tied to the pollution in their local water sources. Now, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but it is not hopeless. We can absolutely turn the tide on this. So for our last section, let's talk solutions. Part 4, charting a course for cleaner water. And the first thing to understand is that there's no magic wand here. We can't just pass one law or invent one cool gadget and call it a day. The path to cleaner water has to be a multifaceted approach. It's going to take a little bit of everything. And that everything really boils down to these 3 main areas. You've got the top-down approach, legislation. We need stronger rules, and we need to actually enforce them. Then you have technology, right? Developing better, more advanced ways to treat and filter our water. And finally, and this is so important, it comes down to community action. It comes down to us. Things that seem small, like conserving water or making sure we dispose of waste properly, they add up to have a massive, massive impact when we all do them together. And that really brings us to the heart of it all. This blue planet of ours, it's a shared resource. Water connects every single one of us.
It doesn't care about borders on a map. So the challenge to protect it is a shared responsibility, too. The real question isn't just what can be done, but what are we, all of us, going to do to protect it, together?